So what's going on, people? Today, my name is Luis Santiago. I started up a small business, Kinetic Remedy. I'm a personal trainer. My main focus with personal training is to help people with helping them to feel better. My background, I played football, baseball, basketball, and I boxed. All of these different art forms have their own sort of formula for exercise and things like that. And through the years, I've had a lot of injuries and a lot of pains. And I'm at the point now where I just want to take care of my body so that I feel good every day. But I feel like today there's a concept and idea amongst exercise that everyone is pushing their body to the limit. Everyone is trying as hard as they can. And I come across people in my work that need more therapeutic practices and rehabilitation in order for them to truly feel healthy. But there's a major disconnect in understanding and ideas. And so today I have my friend here, Antonio Coletti. I hope that's the proper pronunciation. He's a doctor of physical therapy. And hopefully he'll have some insight to explain in a simpler way of how to be healthy. So with that said, Anthony.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, and welcome everyone to this podcast. I thank Lewis for having me on, and looking forward to doing more of these. But a little bit background of me. I went to NYIT for physical therapy. I got my doctorate 3 years ago in physical therapy, and really just been in sports kind of my whole life. I played a little college baseball my first year. I played hockey in high school. I played soccer. I played football. I did do a little boxing as a form of training and a form of getting in shape. And now, I'm working working in Glendale, Queens at a PT office called ProMet Physical Therapy. And, I've definitely been seeing an uptick in your weekend warrior, your CrossFit injuries, your boxing injuries. A lot of fighters have been coming in. Queens is pretty dense with that population, and I've definitely been seeing an uptick in that in the past few years. So I've had my experience in working with fighters all over New York, and so what we want to talk about is some common issues that we see, and the idea of training and recovery. Sometimes we overthink, and we want to go and put in the hard work, and the grind is what counts, and showing your effort inside the gym is we think that is kind of going to drive our performance. So we got off the weight training, the conditioning, your interval training, your footwork, whether it's balance training, all those things, those are great. Now we're doing that at high levels. We're doing that at high levels, and we're doing it multiple times a week. So if you're in CrossFit, if you're just any athlete, or if you're in boxing, you're doing this probably 4, maybe 5 times a week, and sometimes they do it twice a day. Mm-hmm. So after seeing that, we want to make sure that they're able to compete and stay at that high level. And the only way to continue that high level, we're training at that elite level, we want to stay at that elite level. How do we do that? By bringing the recovery aspects at the same level. So we're doing that but we're doing all the intense work, and we're doing that at a high level. We got to have our recovery at the same level so that we're able to challenge ourselves and continue to perform well. So how do we do that? Well, it's putting yourself first, right? Like Lewis, right? You were saying like how, you feel like you're beating up the bag, but at the same point, you're beating yourself up, right? You're beating mm-hmm. yourself up in the gym. You're beating yourself up in competitions. You're beating yourself up, at work, training with people. And, we have to learn how to put ourselves first. So, it's tough. We gotta kind of check the ego at the door and say, okay, I've been training for this long. I want to continue what I love to do. How do I do that? So that's the first question you want to ask yourself is I want to be doing this. Why do I do this? Because I love training. I love staying healthy. I love to box, right? I love to do CrossFit. I love to be an athlete. I want to do that for a long time. So how do we continue to do those things? And it's by putting yourself first. So what does that mean? It's making your recovery a priority. Just like you make your training a priority 4 or 5, 6 times a week, we got to have our recovery as a priority as well. Now, that can lead down a whole another road of recovery techniques, right? So we can do, what we like to incorporate is more of a active recovery. So there's rest and recovery, not really just rest. You don't want to just lay down and kick your feet up and just rest for, the whole day. You want a little bit of an active rest, because you want to keep your body moving, but at a low pace. So yes, what we incorporate with that is definitely, tapping into your muscle system by soft tissue work. I like to incorporate, instrument assisted massages, sports massage, kind of getting into the tissue a little bit, monitoring the tissue texture and seeing if there's any sort of areas that should be addressed. And once we kind of do that examination, we can take it on from there. And that's one aspect of it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we're going to get into some more of that. But that's kind of that's just the body work of it, right? That's just kind of like the massage and all those things, sport massage, and getting into the cupping and the instrument assisted. That's one aspect of recovery. But there's a lot more to that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a deep pool of information and knowledge that we can go on endlessly. One of the things that is of an importance to me is that my clients are not athletes. They tend to just be regular mom and pops, that they don't have that. They're not training 4 to 6 days a week. They're training maybe 2 to 3 days a week. And so for those 2 to 3 days a week, maybe they didn't play any sports early on in their life. So for those 2 to 3 days a week, they want to train as hard as they can. But maybe they're 50 years old and now they want to train as hard as they can 2 to 3 days a week. But then they need to, maybe there's some sort of a backlash or response to their super hard training for those 2 to 3 days that they maybe have to take off another 2 to 3 days. So they affect their consistency over the long haul. And I have a difficulty in explaining to them that if we take the foot off of the gas pedal for a little bit, that doesn't mean we're not working hard anymore. We're actually we're working just as good, and it will have even better long-term effects. And I feel like one of the big things that we have a trouble with is the overall idea of working hard. How is it that we sort of change the perception of hard work amongst people, and the fact that, like you said, taking off the gas is equally as beneficial? How do you think it is that we can go about implementing that into the normal populace, mom and dad, aunts and uncles?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it starts with what we're doing, having a conversation, having people listen to what this is about. I mean, you're by being in front of your clients every day, me in front of my patients every day. I think it starts there. It starts you leading that example. So that's number one. Just educate on that aspect, that it's not about working harder. It's about working smarter.
Yes, sir.
And when you work smarter, you're able to have a longer career or a longer time staying in a zone that is safe for you and that you don't get too sore. And like you said, it's about being consistent. Consistency is what you really want. And in with lifestyles and with habits, it's about staying consistent to those things. And the easier we're going to stay consistent, the best we're going to adhere to a plan of care. And at that point, it's just kind of checking in and learning that over time you're working on the small things, right? And you're not skipping steps. So what I mean by that is when you're trying to educate on the proper ways to go about your training, it's important to look at yourself and say, what is my goal? What's my goal here? Am I trying to, just stay, fit so I could pick up my 2-year-old off the floor? or, am I trying to, train for a marathon in a year? So first, let's look at what our goal is, right? So once we kind of know where our goal is, okay, now let's choose a starting point, right? The starting point for that is, okay, well, you said you want to, you want to be able to, work on your house or whatever it is on the weekend, and you got to climb ladders and whatever that takes, even grocery shopping, stuff like that could be taxing. Well, I think the foundation for all these lifts and all these movements is core. So I think by learning how to really embrace your core as a foundational movement, I think that's a huge thing that we got to kind of break in this field is, I'll do core, on Thursdays, or like, at the end of my workout, I do core, like people tell me, okay, yeah, I did back, and then I threw in some core exercises. I'm like, well, even when you were doing back, that was still core exercise, so it's like, I think you got to reframe core exercise, and it really, it's, I can't lift a weight without activating my core. So it's like, we have to really do a good job at explaining that it is, there is no such thing as a isolated core workout. It's got to be within all of our movements that we do. And that starts by what you do on day one with your clients. Are you teaching them how to move their pelvis, right? How to move their pelvis in space, how to move their pelvis on the floor, how to, stabilize their core. And then guess what? Now you got to coordinate that with your breath. So now we coordinate movement of my pelvis with my breath. And now we're getting full activation of our deep core muscles, right? Our obliques, transverse abdominis, our diaphragm, some other low back muscles that all help with respiration. So you might as well do the breathing as you're doing your core work, because that's just going to further introduce that to you. And, when we're doing those things, that's going to help us train smarter. And, it might seem tedious, and, you got to, always kind of focus on, mastering those basic things. But I think if we're mastering those basic things, that in and of itself is recovery, because you're dispersing the forces where they need to be forced, which is inside, on the side of your obliques, your hips, somewhere where your muscles are actually working. And once we're kind of working with that, and they're starting to kind of make sense of, where they're feeling the actual areas work, that is going to lead to better recovery sessions where now, they can rate themselves, and like you said, after a workout, they're sore for, 3-4 days. They have to make sure that they're communicating that with you, make sure that we're all on the same page here, so that, we can dial it back so that we can hit, your exercises 3 times a week without, hitting it once and then you're off for 6 days, and then hitting it once again and now you're off for 6 days. It's so much better to do less, chip away at it. Yeah, chip away, and work on those foundations first.
Yes, sir. One of the other things that you just mentioned that I think is huge, one of the things that I always work on with my clients is, I don't want them to feel excessive pain. I don't want you to be in pain every day. I don't want to kill you. I can give you 3 workouts and make you sore for a week. It's a very easy thing to do. But I think it's tougher to give you a quality workout where you wake up the next day feeling great, feeling light, feeling strong, feeling healthy. But the common idea is, I want to feel sore. I want pain. What is your idea on that? In order for it to be beneficial, is that beneficial? Is that the key? Is that the key to a good workout? Soreness?
Right. That's a great question. And I think it's, I think it's one that, as humans, we want to feel things, we want to feel that we did something.
Yep.
And, when we don't feel something, we feel like, oh, what was the point? I didn't really work out. And, that couldn't be further from the truth. It really can't, because there's going to be days where once you start building your capacity and you start building strength, there's going to be days where you're not, you're not feeling sore the next couple of days. So what I like to tell people is there's 2 rules I like to follow. It's, how'd you feel that night? And then how did you feel within 24 hours? So within that first night, okay, you get home at night, whatever, after a long day, kind of get sore or whatever. Now, soreness on a scale of 0 to 10, okay, 10 being the hardest exercise, the most soreness in the world, the almost to the point of pain is way too much, 0 being feeling nothing. They should be at like a 2 or a 3 that night. They really shouldn't be like, oh my God, I can't even walk that night. That means that we did a little too much, and we need to monitor that so that the next day they're able to, go up the stairs, walk to the grocery store, get to work, stand for such and such hours, or sit without issues. Now, say they pass that night thing and they say, okay, it was at like a 2 out of 10. Great, awesome. Let's wait the 24 hours. Okay, so now the next day comes about. Same thing throughout the day. They start feeling their thighs like, oh, I definitely had a good leg workout yesterday. And then, 4 or 5 o'clock hits, and now it's like, wow, it's tough for me to get out of a chair. And now maybe we're approaching like a 6 out of 10 soreness scale. So I would say that is something you want to report, or I would say write that down in a log. If you have an exercise log, I recommend just kind of writing that down with the date, your number of how sore you were. Or if you're working with Lewis or me, you can let us know, and we will document that and kind of monitor, what did we do that previous workout, right? And it's not that previous workout was bad, not at all, because guess what? We want to eventually do that again. And, in 24 hours, now you're not a 6 out of 10, maybe you're a 3. And guess what? You're getting stronger. And that's what it leads to. So I would look at those two rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that you also mentioned that I wanted to touch on, you mentioned a marathon runner. I have several clients that ran the marathon about 2 or 3 times. Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 clients that ran the marathon about 2 or 3 times, and they are someone that I assume is quite knowledgeable as I am, because they're super engaged and active in the field.
Absolutely.
But the clients that I've worked with, simply, we did an hour worth of stretching, and they released more sweat in that hour of stretching than if I gave them an hour of HIIT exercises. A lot of individuals wanted, again, my marathon clients, they just want to run and push. But then I recently read an article that stated that there were 2 groups there was a study on 2 groups. One group was they did the traditional training method where they were just running. I don't know how they prepare for the marathon, but they did their standard running preparation, however many miles at the end of the week. And then another group, they didn't do any running. All that they did was core exercises. And then they tested both groups at the end of the marathon, and they wanted to see what their performance was like and what their recovery was like. The people who did the stretching and they were mainly focused on core strength, they had faster times and they had less pain and injuries after the marathon as to the people who did your traditional running. So I was trying to explain this to my client, who again I thought was knowledgeable in these things, but for me to express it to him that we should focus more on your flexibility and your core, to him it was counterproductive. So again, I think you're hitting on exactly on the head. Yeah. You there?
Yeah, no, I think that's staying up in the research, being up to date with the literature that's out there for overtraining. And we see 90% of the people that we see are just did something too soon, too fast, too soon, right? You did something too fast, too soon, or you just you didn't schedule some sort of deload, right? A lot of people were just progressive overload, right? Progressive overload is great. But progressive overload, for some people who may not know, is just every 2 weeks you're adding some weight to the bar, you're adding some weight to your dumbbells. Every 2-3 weeks you're adding, getting stronger, and it's getting easier, and it's getting harder, but you're lifting more and you're getting stronger. Okay, that's great. But a lot of the time, and from what I'm seeing, is we're just steadily doing that until they get hurt. And so it's been such a common theme, and I can't stress this enough, is just, you know, you don't want to wait till you're hurt to then, you know, come see a physical therapist or go train with you. Like, you want to be proactive before you start getting symptoms. So I would say, you know, make sure that you're programming your routine with precision. You know, you want to, okay, I'm going to do 8 weeks, and then I'm going to do a week of deloading. Deloading means a week of, like you said, maybe some stretching, some core work, you know, maybe some light, you know, cardio, whatever it is, light, or even weights, but just very light, very light. You do that for a week or two, and then you come back, and now you where you left off, you come back where you left off. But just including that in your periodization, in your programming, is so critical. And it's tough, you know, like me and you, right? We love to work out, and even us, like we have to program our own routines, because what do we, you know, it's like, we have to practice what we preach. And this year, over the past year, I've been writing my programs, and I've been sticking with it. And, you know, I've been feeling amazing. My body hasn't felt this way in so long. And, you know, but because I'm scheduling it, I'm preparing for it. And it's just simply preparing for a week of just, or even 2 weeks of just kind of, you know, focusing on your stretches, focusing on your breathing, focusing on core, focusing on your body. Stuff like that is gonna definitely you know, help you get back to your training.
Yeah, without a doubt. So speaking of that, what sort of training regimen are you on? Do you have someone that works with you, or do you mainly focus on yourself? What sort of things do you do to keep yourself healthy?
Yeah, so I like to look at like my whole year. Okay, I like to break up my year in either like 3 quarters. You know, so you know, there's 12 months in a year. We could do 3, 3, 3. So like 3 months, 3 months, and 3 months. So then within the 3 months, that'll be 12 weeks, and I'll have 6 weeks. I'll do 6 weeks of like just kind of progressively, you know, challenging myself. And then, you know, on the 6th week, I'll have a deload week where we don't do anything, where we kind of just do stretching and not do anything. But again, like we touched on before, active rest, where it's not just rest, it's active rest, where I'm maybe using maybe getting a sports massage. Maybe I'm having one of my buddies kind of, you know, work out some sort of soft tissue on me, getting into some breathing exercises, getting into my hip mobility, kind of even touching base on some yoga moves that might be difficult for me to do. You know, males tend to be a little more stiff dominant. So I think, you know, we need to do definitely a lot more of the stretching, more mobility. And I'm tending to see females be more of kind of the loose. And so they love to do the stretches. They're actually pretty good with their mobility. They need more like stability, which is, you know, some balance work and stuff like that. So it's definitely very individualized. So I'm just speaking off of me, but that's what I do. And then, you know, so say, you know, after that first quarter of, after those 3 months are over, and say that first 3 months was more kind of strength training. Maybe it was, you know, deadlifts, squats, you know, some back, some chest, something like that. My next one, okay, I will now add a couple of variables. I will maybe add some tempo to it. Maybe every exercise I have to go 5 seconds on my eccentric phase. So now the weight is lower because I can't do a lot of weight. We're going down 5 seconds on that eccentric phase, you know, and then instead of doing what I was doing in the first phase, which is a lot of double leg stuff, right? Double leg squats, double leg deadlifts, double leg lunges, right? All those things. Now I'm going to single leg stuff. So now I do a little block of single leg work, single leg bridges, single leg balance, single leg squats, single leg lunges, right? Now I'm incorporating kind of different routines, single leg deadlifts, right? I'm incorporating a routine that I wasn't used to, but I'm building robustness, right? I'm building a capacity for me to grow, to change, challenge my body, and just kind of lead into, you know, the next phase, which will be different. But I think that, you know, incorporating, you know, first of all, just organizing your year first, I would say that's step one. And then, you know, kind of, I would say reach out to Lewis or Lewis or me, and just to kind of organize how do I go about this? How do I go about my 12 weeks? How do I go about my 6 weeks? How should I change this up? Ask these questions. It's not for, the general public. That doesn't need to, they already have so much more to do, right? You got to take care of your life. You got to take care of your own job. You got to do so many other things. And now you got to do research on how to program. It's definitely a lot of things to do, but that's why we're here. We're here to help them, give them a lending hand and say, listen, it's not up to you to really program. It's up to us to kind of make that easier for you so that you can stay healthy and continue to do what you love.
Yeah, yeah. I think you are very correct with that. Programming is a very, very broad topic, and we can go into a full episode specifically on programming for people one day and into the future. But one of the things that I keep hearing you mention that I think is essential, that is one of my main focuses, is what do you learn from working out? But what you learn from working out as far as your breath work. Why is it so essential that you keep mentioning breath work?
Yeah. So, breath, I think, is a big thing because our breath will trigger certain areas in our body. So there's two parts of our body, really. It's your fight or flight and your rest and digest. So your fight or flight is what we were stressed about, right? When there's some sort of stressful situation, our heart rate goes up, we start to sweat, we start to panic, we start to, feel a little anxious. Now, these are good things to have because we needed this as we were evolving as humans. We needed to be able to run after or run from the bear that was chasing us, right? That was that's why we have cortisol, right? Stress hormones. That's why we have adrenaline. That's why we have all that. That's great. It increases your heart rate. And now you're breathing faster, right? Obviously, you're breathing faster to get more oxygen in and get more of oxygen to your muscles so that you can run fast. Great. Now that's one aspect of life. Now that's called your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight. But nowadays, that system is kicked on from being stuck in traffic. Maybe, being, stressed at work. So now those same hormones that we used thousands of years ago to run after, a lion is going through my body, sitting in an office with a computer in front of me. So that stress leads to a higher heart rate, leads to higher blood pressure, leads to some comorbidities that we can discuss, which, we can go into the diabetes, the heart disease that we're dealing with that's, another pandemic that we're dealing with, obesity, all things.
Yes, sir.
Leads to all those things. So the breathing, now that was one aspect, the fight or flight. What is the rest and digest? So the rest and digest, some people might have heard after you eat a meal, right? You get a little bit tired. Maybe your breathing goes down. You feel sleepy, right? That's your rest and digest. That's your digestion saying we got to do a lot of work in our tummy. So I don't want you using your arms or your legs too much because we got to focus on, digesting your food that you just ate. That's sleeping at nighttime, right? When you fall asleep, your heart rate drops down, your blood pressure drops down, your respiratory rate drops down. All that helps you kind of get into sleep, right? So we know sleep is probably the number one area for recovery. And if your sleeping is way off and yet you're training like a maniac throughout the week and you can't sleep at night because you're still stuck in that fight or flight where your tension is up, you got a lot of stress on you and you don't know how to get rid of that, and so you're sleeping, but you're not sleeping with a calmed heart rate, you're not sleeping in a restful position. That can lead to overuse of some systems in our body. That can lead to some fatigue in our adrenal glands, or that can lead to some fatigue throughout our hormones and stuff like that. So what we do is start teaching about breathing, which I'm also certified in postural restoration. So this is a form of just really a form of exercise that engages deep breath, engages rib cage mobility, and looks at your body as a whole, right? And we're not just looking at one part of the body, we're looking at the whole body as a whole, and with special emphasis on our rib cage. So the rib cage is 60, it goes from the front, the sides, the back, And with poor postures, or with just kind of that high stress posture, we start to come up here where our chest is out, and we start to lose our core stability, and we're just here all the time because we're stressed. So what we like to do is think about exhaling. So when we're in this posture and we're in our fight or flight, we're in an inhaled posture. We're inhaled. I keep a lot of air stuck in me, and that keeps me on high alert, right? That keeps me on high alert when we're in an inhaled posture. Yes, so what we want to do is get into an exhaled posture. When we're in an exhaled posture, that stimulates the opposite effect of all that fight or flight stuff. This exhaling stimulates rest and recovery, rest and digest. So when we're entering this phase, we're thinking about exhaling. You know, I get people on a balloon sometimes trying to just practice. You know, a lot of people have trouble just blowing a balloon. And I say, listen, this is your homework. Just blow out a balloon. That focuses that. And people say that this actually makes them a little more looser. It gets them a little tired, and it prepares them for bed. So, you know, once now you are able to understand, right? Because you got to understand the why behind this. It's not just, here's an exercise, there you go. It's, you got to understand why this is. So when you're understanding that there's two systems and they're kind of just playing tug of war with each other, when we're tapping into our exhaling and our rest and recovery, now you're understanding a whole nother aspect of your recovery now, because now you can stimulate recovery sitting down at your desk by simply just small breath in, 6 to 10 seconds of a nice long exhale. Do that 3-4 rounds, slight breathe in for 2 seconds, exhale 6 to 8 seconds. And just doing 4 or 5 rounds of that, you're going to notice that your heart rate drops down, your blood pressure gets lower, your respiratory rate drops, right? And all those measures that we talked about before come down to a baseline level. So now that we know how to kind of work both areas, so now let's incorporate our breathing into training now. And that is when we can go next level with this, because now, you know, now you can, between sets, if you're learning how to exhale, now you can watch your heart rate, right? You can watch, everyone's got these devices. You do the breathing thing I just mentioned, the 8 seconds of exhaling, and you're looking at your heart rate, that is going to drop down really fast. I mean, it should drop down. It shouldn't drop down too fast, but it's going to drop down. Yeah. And guess what? It's going to get you ready for that next round of whatever HIIT interval training you're doing. So I teach this to my boxers, is how to monitor that, because when they're fighting for 3-minute rounds and then they got a 1 minute off, that 1 minute off, they're exhaling, they're getting back to a baseline 60 beats per minute heart rate, which is going to really drive more of a recovery them to then get their training back on full throttle, and helps them kind of get ready for the next round. So you know, that's one aspect. And of course, you know, the core muscles do exhale, right? So just like your bicep flexes your arm, your core muscles, they bring your rib cage down. So when we're focusing on, you know, planks, core, rotation work, pushes, you might as well be exhaling as you're doing some sort of push, because the core does exhale. So, you know, it's one thing to bear down and whatever, and, you know, not exhale or breathe. But then if you're blowing out and you're doing that, now you're just engaging more of your deep, you know, abdominal muscles to stabilize you, to get the most out of your push, pull, run, whatever it is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oxygen throughout the body, throughout the muscles, feeling fresher for a longer time. It just increases your endurance over longer periods. So without a doubt. But one of the things that I think is most important that, you just went away. Oh yeah. One of the things that I find to be most important, and I think the real reason why we're here doing this, is the connectivity to your own self, to your own body. Hey, Antonio, you disappeared. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that is one of the biggest things, is helping people to understand their own body, to connect to their own body, to understand how their own system works. Because I think we have this detachment with these quick fixes. I'm going to take this and this is going to get me this result. I'm going to do this exercise, it's going to get me this result. Right. But none of those things are actually going to get you what you think. It's really sinking into the work and understanding the work doing it yourself and applying it to yourself and learning how we feel as individuals, and I think as a society as a whole, just that understanding can help to bring upon some health long term for each and every one of us overall. So with that
I think that's
said,
huge.
yes, sir. With that said, some future topics that we would like to discuss. Are there anything in particular that you would like to discuss that you can prepare the people for that we'll be informing them about?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think I would like to kind of extend that question out to the people and see kind of, you know, we can definitely kind of, for everyone listening, obviously, you know, shoot us an email about any questions you want us to discuss. I know some topics already that we're going to go through is maybe some common overuse injuries that we see. You know, what's the deal with foam rolling, lacrosse ball, you know, self myofascial release? What's the
Yes,
deal
sir.
with that? We can go into, you know, kind of how to incorporate programming into your exercise routine and how to adhere to that. You know, I think we can discuss a little bit about how we you know, some common myths, right? You know, some common myths that we hear all the time, right? Like, you know, how many times do we hear like someone says like, oh, like you know, I feel like I should be you know, no pain, no gain, right? How many times do we hear no pain, no gain, right? It's
All
like,
the time.
well, it's understand your pain, know where it is, and try not to barge through it. So like, I think we should kind of go into certain myths that we can kind of break, and again, just, you know, go through, you know, common little things that are main topics. Maybe we can go through some nutrition stuff, maybe even go through you know what proper sleeping is, proper habits that we can get into, you know, a nice morning routine. We can talk about morning routines, nightly routines, stuff like that.
Yes, sir. All right, great. Sounds good. So with that said, we will have more episodes coming for you guys. We will brainstorm and figure out specifically what we'll be providing for you guys next episode. With that said, where can we follow you on the gram or on Facebook? Where can people follow you?
Absolutely. You can follow me at The Boxing Doc at on Instagram. You can follow our clinic at ProMet PT on Instagram. And yeah, I mean, feel free, reach out to you as well on Kinetic Remedy, I believe, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, you guys can also follow me on Kinetic
Exactly. So
Remedy.
I would say,
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir. We have
yeah,
way more.
absolutely. So
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot more coming for all you guys. Thank you so much, Antonio. That was tremendous, great insight. And there's so I'm so excited for what is to come for the future because yeah, people, this is the key to our own health and happiness on a day-to-day basis in a very simple way. It's not rocket science by any means. So thank you once again. Everyone have a great day. Antonio, have a great day. And everyone enjoy.
thank you.
Thank you, brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Luis.
Likewise.